Okay, welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to dive right into the high stakes battleground of global AI security, risks, and, well, the countermeasures unfolding right now as we speak. We're looking at a landscape that is moving at just breakneck speed. And the sheer scale of what's happening in 2026, it's honestly something everyone in the tech and security space absolutely needs to understand. So let's kick things off with a pretty major warning from the UN Independent Science Report on AI. They emphasize that while AI's rapid development across all these different domains offers massive opportunities, which is true, we have to urgently balance that with the grave risks involved. It's really no longer just about what these systems can do for us. It's a very serious conversation about what they might do to us if we're not paying close attention. The UN specifically warns about severe negative impacts on human rights, our fundamental societal systems, and even environmental consequences. But the absolute most crucial takeaway here? We desperately need hard evidence to build effective governance. We can't just regulate based on science fiction or hypotheticals. We need concrete data on how these systems actually operate in the wild to put the right guardrails in place.
So, the big question we have to ask ourselves before we even think about future governance is this. Based on the evidence we actually have right now, how safe are these frontier AI systems today?
Section 1, Failing the Safety Test. Let's look at the Summer 2026 AI Safety Index. Now, what is truly alarming about these numbers is that the top 3 frontier AI developers in the world, we're talking Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google, were rigorously reviewed across 7 areas of assessment, and they received overall safety grades ranging from just a C+ all the way down to an F. I mean, these are the companies leading the charge, right? And their safety scores are barely passing, if not outright failing. But the most terrifying takeaway from the index is that out of all 7 assessment areas, these massive models performed the absolute worst in existential safety. When the very systems being deployed globally are scoring lowest on the metrics designed to measure existential threats, it fundamentally changes the whole conversation around how fast we should actually be deploying them. Which brings us to Section 2, the real-world cyber fallout, specifically the July Accenture incident. In July, exactly 35 gigabytes of highly sensitive data was stolen and just offered up for sale following a massive corporate breach at Accenture. To put that into perspective for a second, 35 gigabytes of plain text isn't like a few movie files. It is the equivalent of tens of millions of pages of proprietary code, all lost in a single event. And the threat actor, known as 888, didn't just steal surface-level data. No, they walked away with the internal source code and, critically, the RSA and SSH keys, plus personal access tokens. They essentially grabbed the master cryptographic keys and the digital ID badges that lock down the entire network. When threat actors can leverage modern vulnerabilities to bypass standard security this deeply, the industry literally has to pivot its entire defense strategy.
So how are they pivoting? Section 3, Fighting Fire with AI, the tech industry's defensive countermeasures. That brings us to the launch of OpenAI's GPT-5.6. This is a new model specifically engineered to support cyber defense tasks and act as the strongest cybersecurity countermeasure currently available. The strategy here makes total sense. Human defenders alone just cannot patch and monitor networks fast enough to stop AI-assisted or highly sophisticated breaches anymore. So they're deploying frontier models to automate the defense, fighting AI with AI. And the metrics here represent a massive leap. Whether it's maximizing token efficiency with a 73.5% budget on Exploit Bench or severely cutting down processing lag with a 71.2% improved latency on SC Bench Pro and hitting a 24.9% peak pass rate on Exploit Gem. Basically, these numbers prove the model can actively identify complex exploits in real time well before a hacker can execute them. It's a major upgrade in a model's ability to analyze threats rapidly and process security logs without lagging.
But tech isn't everything. Section 4, Putting AI on a Leash, covering global regulatory responses.
Let's see how all of this builds into real-world policy. The Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, just published SAFR. That stands for Safeguards for Agentic Finance at Runtime. This is a practical industry reference approach designed specifically for the runtime governance of agentic AI within the financial sector. Now, while the MAS emphasizes that SAFR is really just a starting point for industry discussion, it is incredibly significant. Why? Because it translates those high-level theoretical governance concepts into a practical, implementable framework.
It takes the UN's call for evidence-based guardrails that we talked about earlier and actually attempts to apply them to financial systems where AI agents are operating autonomously. It does this by breaking runtime governance down into two simple, strict rules. First, strictly define the agent's authority. And second, mandate action assessment before execution. That runtime aspect is the key here. You aren't just checking the AI when you build it, right? You're actively monitoring it right before it hits the execute button on a financial transaction or a data transfer. So we are left in this constant tug of war. We're trying to balance blindingly rapid AI development and devastating threats like Actor 888 against our best attempts at runtime governance and new defensive AI. It's a constant battle between the expansion of capabilities and the urgent need for systemic security. Which leaves us with one final provocative question to consider today. As these models continue to scale in power and autonomy, and as threat actors become even more sophisticated, can our effective regulation and defensive governance ever truly outpace the sheer speed of AI innovation? It is the defining security question of 2026, and for sure, the answer is going to shape the future of our digital world. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.